And we're live. Okay. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the live event. Lots of love to everyone who is watching the replay. Thank you for joining us. And also, I think I'm going to mute my audio here so I won't have reverb. Okay. Sorry for that. So today we're going to talk about the clearing and healing process, like how it works, what can you do with it? Because like we're in the middle of it right now on all levels. We're all going through it and there's nothing that you can do about it because you're here and you're here for the ride. But there's many things that we can do each day to ease and smooth the whole process, because it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be painful. Like it can be very challenging, but we can make it as smooth as possible. For we are not here to suffer or to have a very bad time on planet Earth. Also, if you're interested, I want to share also our Patreon community. We're having all types of activities there with our community. We're having gatherings where we can come together much more easily and also interact more directly. Also, we have all types of self-development and spiritual activities. And each month I bring through my guides in a week. I think it's going to be in 3 weeks. I bring through my guides, and during the live channeling session, you can ask questions from my guides and receive answers from Sirius directly. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm going to double check that everything is working before I continue. Just to be on the safe side. Okay. So if anyone can hear me or see me, please let me know in the comment sections below. Also, if you have any types of questions, please do share in the chat box. Also, if you're watching the replay, then post a comment or multiple ones if you want to, and we will do our best with higher vibrations to answer your questions. And yes, and I'm going to start the topic. She will be joining us later, as it seems. And yeah, I got like a download regarding this whole process, how it works, the clearing and healing process. Right now, we're in the middle of spring. And thank God. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining, Lisa. And also Electric Movement. Thank you for being here. And lots of happy dolphins to all of you. And yeah, like we're here out in nature, kind of. Yeah. Okay, I just got a Skype message. I'll have to close that. Okay, so we're out in nature right now. We live in a house. We have also a big yard. We have a garden. We never had it before, but we were like waiting for it for God knows how long. And now we have it. And I got this download regarding the whole clearing and healing process that we're all going through basically the same thing as the garden in the springtime, basically. For example, our terrain wasn't used for gardening for more than 10 years. So you can imagine like stuff accumulates in the ground. Also, the terrain was used for different purposes, which meant that all types of junk kind of deposited itself in the ground during the time. So we're clearing that out right now. And also, if you're not doing maintenance on a terrain, then all types of weeds and stuff that you don't want to have in your garden get there stuck, and you have to clean that out too. So hello, high vibrations. How are you doing? I was just addressing quickly the topic of the clearing and healing. That, I got like a download with our garden. Like we're in the springtime now, and we're clearing and healing the garden outside right now. Like it hasn't been used for like more than 10 years. And it was like all types of junk kind of was deposited there. And over 10 years, it got into the ground, like all types of pieces of metal and agricultural debris or stuff like that went into the ground. And also like weeds take hold and take root if you're not maintaining a terrain. And we're in the process of clearing it out so like new growth can happen. So the garden can actually fulfill its purpose and bear beautiful fruit and be, like more abundant and beautiful for all of us.
It's very symbolic. I like that.
Yeah, like it's very awesome, like being outside right now. Although we have rain now, But yeah, we also needed that too, for the whole growing process too.
Right.
So
That's
yeah, like how are you doing? And yeah, like what types of downloads did you have that you want to share with us today?
I was kind of thinking about this a couple of days ago, how it's I know that I'm not alone in saying that most of us were kind of brought up in this life to believe that some kind of outside source or thing needs to be Hi Fritzy. Every time we hear somebody talking, he's up here.
Yeah,
I love that cat.
yeah, he's checking like who's here.
Right.
I can see it, but who's here?
That's the cat's language of want to be friends. That flick. That means want to be friends.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
do that.
that's cat language. Anyway, but just we've been taught, conditioned to believe that some outside source or some outside thing needs to be utilized in order to like find healing and make healing possible, when in fact that is contrary to the truth. And as a result, a lot of us, at least me anyway, in this experience, this particular phase of my awakening, though I know that, it still requires for me a lot of focus to allow myself to believe that truth, if that makes any sense. And that's all we really need in order for healing and clearing to really occur, is for us to just do it. But you can't create if you don't believe you can, if there's something that's keeping you from that belief. And so that's really been the biggest trick for me, in that understanding that that we are powerful beings. Not only can we transmute anything, but we can create anything. We are creating our reality right now, and for instance, perhaps you and I are actually sitting in the same room. It's just that we have this is how we make sense to ourselves.
Yeah, and yeah, like we could also address the whole part of the healing process, like how we were like all conditioned through society, basically. Like everyone here has this notion that I need someone from the outside to fix stuff for me.
Right.
And I think it's called like this type of savior syndrome, that you need someone to fix your life kind of stuff, right, which we have like in religion, politics, and like in each field of our lives. Yeah, like it's so frustrating with like all the elections and like politics, that they're using the same formula over and over and again, and people are like always falling for it, like, okay, like now if we vote for that guy, like he's going to fix everything for us. Yeah, and everything will change.
Right.
And the same stuff also with it's all the same. It's the same team, basically. And also with medicine too, like, but not necessarily like medicine, like I think how we approach our health too. Like we had the same conditioning that, okay, like I have maybe a disease or I have some kind of physical problems, and I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to pay him and he's going to fix me.
Yeah.
Like he's going to do it for me. Like, okay, like you need help in many situations, like, I don't know, like surgery or something. But yeah, like, but you also have to work on yourself. Like, why did that happen? Like, why did you end up in that situation? And I think like the best is to illustrate it as like cancer, or at least the information that I've collected regarding cancer is like this very suspicious disease that just appears out of nowhere and just comes back, goes away, and stuff like that. Or like people, or they remove it through surgery and like in 2 weeks it's back.
Right.
Yeah, so that happens too. And basically it's your body telling you that, hey, there's a problem. And depending where that cancer is developing, it is your body is saying to you that, okay, like in this field of your life, there you should really look at this. Right. For example, I didn't have thyroid cancer, but I had like problems with it. And I was told by the medics that I will have to take medication for the rest of my life and the similar stuff. And yeah, like I wasn't in very good shape, because basically that messes with your hormones and your whole how your body functions. And yeah, like I was in 4 years on that stuff. And after my spiritual awakening, got like a download, like this whole crap doesn't make any sense. Like this isn't normal that I have to take that stuff. Like I should be healthier, stuff like that. And in that moment, like I threw it all away. I said, like, here, I'm going to stop. Like whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I don't care.
Right.
Like I'm done with that crap. And yeah, like they were like scaring me that if I don't take the medication, then I'm going to have heart failure and my whole circulatory system is going to go in overdrive. And I had absolutely nothing. And after it cleared from my system in like 2 weeks, I also lost some weight. Like all the irritations from my skin went away, and I could really do good cardio exercises, and my resistance and durability like increased tenfold.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, so much for that.
Right.
But yeah, like in some cases you do need it, and that's like part of your healing process. But you actually have to like look into it, like, okay, like why did this happen? Like for example, the thyroid is connected to your throat chakra,
Right.
and like all the emotions accumulate here. Also, when you're like when you're starting to cry, or like you're very stressed out and frustrated, angry, like it all comes here. It's like this choking feeling in your throat when it comes up. And yeah, like if you don't clear it, if you don't pay attention to it, it builds up. Builds up, and after a time, your body is going to say it was enough, and stuff like that happen too.
Exactly. It's 12-12. If you go to the acupuncture and also reflexology, it's the same concept. Like I was really fascinated with reflexology for a while, and what that is different spots on your foot coincide directly to different organs and parts on your body, and when certain parts of your foot, areas of your foot are sore or tender, or there's an issue there, usually an even callus building up or whatever, that is your body saying, hey, this is something that you need to look at. And so it's like it's a series of maps leading you to this, like you said, an emotional issue that needs to be addressed. And it's not always an emotional issue from this lifetime either. It is one of the most important points that I learned from Dolores Cannon, was that, like many of our issues, these hangups that we've just had, and we don't really know where they came from. Often they've come from some kind of difficulty that occurred in a past lifetime and a past experience that we're not fully aware of, that however needs to be cleared out and addressed, and there's a lot of methods and things that we can do. And for instance, the introduction of the light bed, the med bed, that's been discussed for a while, and I know that there's different means of connecting to that energetically right now, and just asking for the use of the med bed and from a distance, and in that utilizing it helps. And also using healers and people who are healers is really useful. The point is those things, they're not actually healing you. You're doing the work. You are equipped and capable 100%. It's just that because
we were allowing yourself to be healthy.
Right. Yeah. And with that same thing being taught growing up, that you need someone or something outside of you to make it possible, that lingering belief still being present makes it so asking for somebody to basically guide you on your way into that healthy healing experience is what's needed. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if I get, if I cut myself, I'm going to put on a Band-Aid, and I'm not feeling bad about it, that I'm going to use an outside something, you know what I mean? And when there are things that need assistance, there's no shame there. It's simply that fascinating element of the more that we understand, the more that we believe and see that it's true, the easier it is to do these things. And before I forget, totally off topic, but my daughter drew this picture for Jacques-Aranda Marie because today's her birthday. And so I want to say happy birthday, Jacques-Aranda Marie, even though you're not going to watch this till later.
She's not here right now.
No, but she will watch it later. She's off playing in the desert someplace.
Wow, okay. Like so she received a rainbow cake?
Yes, she did. I didn't mean to. So what were you going to say about that?
About the rainbow cake.
Oh, you looked like when we were talking about reflexology and how it addresses things from our past lives, it seemed, or whatever.
Mhm.
How do you feel about healing?
About healing, yeah, like yeah, like it came up like this remote healing stuff. Like it's super helpful if you have someone around you. Like for me, what was super healing was the QHHT sessions, like the quantum healing hypnosis
Yes.
therapy developed by Dolores Cannon. Like I had 2 sessions. After that, I also learned how it works. So I became also a practitioner of it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, but the sad thing about is that about that you have to be present there, so you can't do it remotely. So in the
Mhm.
past few years, that kind of went out the window because nobody booked the session.
Right. The lockdown stuff.
Yeah, so we went into remote healing, but that can be also super transformative too. Like I haven't, but no, I received it once. It was a implant removal from galacticconnections.com. Yeah, it's pretty old. I think I had it like 7 years ago, but it was like a very profound transformation. And the weird stuff was that, and also what illustrates perfectly what you have said, that you had to book in advance like a month or so to receive a session. And the whole thing went that you are not present or you're not connecting because like you're also in different time zones. And the criteria was that, okay, like you book for yourself the session when you're asleep or at least you're resting so they can work on you. But the strange thing for me was like after I booked the session, like I paid for it, I booked one, okay, it's done. The whole process started after that for me, the whole transformation. So I didn't even have the actual healing process done by that other person on me, just by me like agreeing and like signing the papers. Okay, I'm done, I'm doing this. And the whole
Right.
process just started to unfold. And by the time the actual healing took place, like kind of everything was resolved.
Right. That's awesome. And that's true. Just giving permission, consent, and saying, I want this. That's again goes back to the biggest hang up it seems like that we have. Hang up, and it's also a beautiful thing that we have is the law of free will that we experience, and with that free will, there is a lot of really cool things about it because no one can come in and do whatever they want. But at the same time, when assistance is required or needed, consent must be given. And, in some cases, we can give healing to someone who maybe are unconscious enough that they're unable to give consent. And in those cases, I've asked that person's higher self, and like you're still asking for consent. And whether or not you receive the yes or the no, I tend to feel like there's a yes or a no. Usually it's yes. But if you don't, if you can go ahead and do it anyway, and if it's not received, it won't be taken. If it isn't, if they're not accepting of it, then, or don't need it for some reason or whatever, it won't do any harm. It's not gonna do anything for anybody. But we can definitely still be of assistance by sending out the love and the energy in the space at the very least.
Yeah, it's not like you're pumping them with medication that they don't need.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, like if they don't need it, it just, I don't know, like how it's going to be like reused. I mean, that energy, but yeah, like it won't hurt them at all. So, and then it's always nice, like sending that healing and loving to energies to other people because like you receive it back too.
Yeah.
So what you put out is what you get back from the universe. So that's also very awesome.
And it's often in a more magnified way when you receive it back. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I also noticed, and I also heard it from like elderly people, like the great life lesson, like if you can like help and you will like receive it back 100 folds from other people.
Right. It's really beautiful how that works. And it's all the stuff that's already designed in our makeup. And that part that kind of goes into segues into the clearing too. You're talking about the clearing with the garden also. I thought that was really poignant because, this healing stuff really can't fully occur until we clear out the stuff that's in the way. Like you were saying, you can't, if there are weeds and
Yeah, you have junk in the ground.
yeah,
It just won't
that
work.
yeah, it won't grow. If it does grow, it won't grow well, and it may not thrive in the way that is anticipated for that. However, if we do these clearings and we, and not just what we're putting in our body food wise and stuff, but also like what else are we consuming, like the types of entertainment, like what are we thinking about, how our behaviors that we engage in, and the biggest, most common thing that people find that they need to change as they're considering what they're consuming is media. What kind of movies, what kind are you watching, the news, those types of things.
Yeah, like
Because
mental hygiene.
yeah, and if we're adding all that stuff into our system, if we're consuming all of that, then any kind of healing that you're doing, if it works, it won't last very long, in my experience.
Yeah, like it's when you're a chain smoker and you have not breast cancer, what, lung cancer,
Lung cancer.
or you have some kind of respiratory problems in your body. And okay, like you went to the doctor and you received surgery. Oh, it's 2222 here. And you received some kind of surgery or treatment and you're feeling okay, or at least you're recovering. And after that, you're going to continue smoking again. It's going to come back, like
Right.
regardless, like what they're doing or what medication you're receiving. If you're continuing the thing that brought it about in the first
Right.
place, it's going to be there. Like, for example, like it's so ridiculous, like around here, our, especially like our grandparents' generation, like there's this new thing here that everyone has like cholesterol problems and blood sugar.
Right.
And like 30 years ago, we didn't even know that we had that and we lived happily. But yeah, like now it's a big problem. And yeah, like, but they're still eating that junk food and all those heavy, greasy stuff that kind of
Right.
creates it in the first place. And they're taking the medication for it. And we were like asking for with our wives that, like, why are you taking the medication? You should just stop eating that thing and you'll be okay. Like, but that's why I'm taking the medication, so I can eat that stuff.
Right.
Oh my God.
That's an interesting point too. I talked to a doctor a little while ago. It was just, conversation about diet changes over the years. And I went from a full-on carnivore to basically a vegan. If it wasn't for the fact that I like butter, I would be a vegan, and what was interesting was the comment that he made. He said, yeah, meat allergy is becoming really common. People are becoming allergic to meat, is what he's calling it, what the doctors are calling it, and I actually know what, and a lot of us do understand that when we eat meat, it's denser. And so not only, and so eating that meat, it's too dense for our ascension experience we're in right now. And not only that, but we're taking in the emotions that creature is experiencing at the point of its life and the death that it had, and the way that not all, but the majority of these farm raised kind of animals are experience their life. It's not pleasant. And so there's all these elements that go into it, and so when we take that into our system, it's not that we're preventing our ascension, it's just, it's causing it to hurt us. It's not as easy, I guess. You're still going to do it. It's not going to stop you. However, if your body calls you to eat meat, then do it. It's simply learning to listen to your body, and not just your physical body, but that's the first step. My body is asking for more water these days. And, if you tell the neighbors, they, oh, well, maybe you should get tested for this or that, you're dying, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm just going to drink more water because my body wants me to drink more water. What, and the same is true for not eating certain foods, and one at a time. I've slowly removed so many things from my diet that was a regular thing before, and then I'll go back to it on accident. Someone will have made me something and I don't realize that they had put something in there that was processed in some way. And I go through flu-like symptoms for like a day. I'm just sick. And then I realize, oh, that was canned beans, and like, that's so normal and typical to put that in your meals, but my body can't handle it anymore. It makes me sick.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I also had this stuff, like I ate it before, but now my body rejects it. And if I do eat it for some reason, I also feel kind of sick for a while until it clears out.
Right.
And also, Essence of Infinity had a question. In what way it helps to know your past lives from this life's perspective? Yeah, like you were talking about past traumas or past hurts, like not just in this lifetime, but also going back. And yeah, like how does that affect this lifetime?
Well, I mean, we have just like if in this life, okay, so like you were saying, the parts of your body, that's a symptom, a sign of the trauma. So like if you're having heart issues, lots of time it has to do with that area, your heart chakra, and experiences related to that, to trust issues, to connections to others. A lot of in my experience, a lot of the asthma related stuff that people are experiencing, most of them that I know of that have been on this experience of this ascension process and this awakening, once they go through and remember the times that they were actually burned at the stake, and the inhalation of all that smoke as the burning was occurring, once they healed through that trauma, their asthma was gone, and like that kind of thing, as we, just like we do in like therapy kind of idea here in this experience, like you go through something, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, so you talk to somebody about it for a while, and then you find that those symptoms are relieved. The same is true for past life, and it's affecting our physical form, and our physical form starts to heal itself, because it's not saying it's just trying to ask, it's saying, hey, look at me, there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. It's your body communicating with you. It's not trying to kill you. It's trying to say, look right here. This is how this is the word, how I use words. And I'm saying that you're having asthma right now, or you're having throat difficulties, or whatever it is, because that's the area that needs to be looked at. And if we can learn to translate into that other language, our body's language, then we can address the hurt, and then the symptom goes away.
Yeah, like, and also like our whole medical system is like based on not necessarily healing the cause of the problem, but like suppressing the symptoms.
Right.
So you're mostly like silencing your body's only way of communicating with you, right. But still the problem is there. You just don't see it or don't feel it, sadly.
Just covering up with a band-aid. There's a festering wound underneath.
Yeah, it's very nasty too. And like also Donna has joined us. Hello, Donna. Thank you for being here. She said, I also remember being sick by faking it. So like by faking it, like I also heard something, I don't know, like if you heard this, there was like this experiment. I think psychiatrists did it, like people who were depressed and suicidal, I think, but they were only like depressed, and they gave them some kind of fake medication for depression.
Placebo.
Yeah, and one of the patients or the test subjects like overdosed himself because he was suicidal. So he overdosed himself with candy because it was sugar. And he went into shock, and they have to take him to the, how do you call it, emergency room or whatever. Yeah. So his body was going into shock because he thought that he's dying because like he overdosed himself with medication. And it's like there wasn't anything they can do for him because there wasn't any medical problem basically with him. And the only thing that they could do is like after like a half an hour, they started to convince him that it was only candy, like it was not medication.
That must have been embarrassing too, that poor guy. But yeah, our minds are, I mean, we can, because we're making an agreement. It's the same for like, if there's some type of illness going around and you're noticing symptoms from it, by declaring that you have that issue, you succumb to it. Like, and so I've learned to change my language to say I'm healing through something, or something like that. I noticed that early on as a younger person. As soon as I said that I would become like, you kind of feel a little bit of symptoms, maybe a scratchy throat. And as soon as you say that you are to somebody else, boom, you're down for the count with sickness for a few days. And it's just, we're making that agreement, right? We're saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah, like, so we have to be like very attentive or like what you think and say too, because like you're declaring your truth too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we are like, you can use it in a positive way with proclamations. Like, do proclamations each day that like actually empower you and help you to heal and regenerate,
Right.
rather than to like succumb to these like, I don't know, like the suggestions of other people. Like, I also had it a lot in the past few years, not because of the virus, but just in general, that I always had problems with sleeping. And sometimes I had like, I know how you call it, like black bags under my eyes,
Right.
because I had insomnia. And probably you should go to check up, because you could have like a liver problem. That's why you have bags under your eyes.
Right.
And you look a bit pale, probably some kind of poisoning, or I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, no. People were like pushing me, like, oh, you should do like a full blood test here and there, because it will like help you so much, so you can like know like what's the problem, take like vitamins. And like my wife pushed it like this for months. And I told her, okay, like you go do the blood test, and if it like really going to help you, which I only estimated like 3 or 5% improvement, if you kind of know like what's the problem with you, if it's really going to improve that much your health, then okay, like I would do it too. But it didn't really do much for her, so she kept quiet after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what can you find out? Like you don't have time to sleep or to rest, like you're stressed out all the time. Like what, you're going to take a bit of calcium for it, or like that's not going to fix the problem. Like if you don't sleep, you can take like whatever you want.
Right. And it's, again, it goes back to that placebo thing that you were talking about, where if you believe it's going to help you, then it will. It's not that it helped you. It's that you are then making the agreement that it will help you on medication stuff. And there's another point too, that, and this is, I am not suggesting, I'm not giving any advice to anyone. This is my own experience, but I have found that more often than not, when I have gone to see the medical world with something that I don't know what the problem is, but there's an issue that's just kind of been bothering me or something, most often they won't actually have a diagnosis for me. They won't really know what's wrong, but they still want to give me medication. They're like, but you can take this pill and this pill and this pill, and it'll probably help you out, maybe. And it's like, and then you read the list of side effects and things that can go wrong. Is it worth the roll of the dice? Because my insomnia, I've always had my average, I usually slept about 2 or 3 hours a night. That was kind of how I slept, and sometimes I'd sleep for 2 hours and be up for 2 hours and then sleep for 2 more before I was ready to go to work. And that was just kind of, that's just me, and like, it's been that way forever. And that's why it's so profound that the past little while, with these ascension symptoms that have been occurring, I've been sleeping a lot. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I love the synchronicities. It's so fun. But like, that's not common for me to sleep that much. And that's why it's like, well, that's really obvious. However,
I enjoy it too. I'm also sleeping more.
Right. And when I wasn't sleeping, I was given medications too. Like, I would hear, try taking this and stuff. And when I was in my 20s, I did it. And it just made things worse in my experience, and so everyone use your own discernment, but that's just, I didn't find anything good from it.
Yeah, I also got the same stuff, like especially in my 20s when I had my awakening, and after that for quite some years I had like severe sleeping problems, because like I was so active during the night and all weird stuff were happening.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, like one of my parents, or I don't know who recommended, like, you should really go and do a checkup or like consult with the doctor and maybe they can help you. I was like, okay, like, but what the hell do I tell them? Like, ETs come during the
Right.
night and they wake me up.
Right.
That won't do any good.
I can tell you from experience, at least at the time I did that, it doesn't work out very good. When I was younger, I told people about the Pleiadians coming and helping me transmute and stuff. And I found there was a time where I was in a hospital and I wasn't allowed to leave. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it doesn't always work out in your favor.
Yeah, or they give you some kind of heavy medication to numb down your mind.
Yeah.
So weird stuff don't, or at least you don't perceive it because you're like so tuned out of
Right.
reality.
Exactly. And not to cause any fear for anyone. I mean, you know what, when you're in the position, if it's a person to talk to about these things. And that's something else too, is that's changing. Like more and more people are becoming more open-minded to this as more people are awakening. It's becoming, like I was talking to somebody about, I don't know if it was on one of our live meetings or what, but how they've changed the way they actually are diagnosing certain things in the psychology world. They used to use, if you had schizophrenia, one of the telltale signs was that you heard voices. And now they've changed it to, do you hear a disembodied voice that is telling you to do things to harm yourself or others? Any other voices, you're not schizophrenic. But if it's a disembodied, and so that's just kind of like a step the psychology world is making to like, okay, people are getting messages, they're getting channelings, they're getting they're getting messages from many different sources that are real, angelic or whatnot. And it's, those science in some cases might be a little bit of a bogus art. It's cool to see it starting to catch up into some more truth. And I'm digging on that.
100 years.
Yeah.
It's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah. I also seen, I haven't explored it much, like schizophrenia and those stuff. Like, I guess like there are actually people who are schizophrenic or like see weird stuff that's in their mind or something's happening in their heads. But I've seen a few cases, like interviews with people who were like describing what you were going through. Mm-hmm. And there was quite a few of them who were, or they were having their spiritual awakening, yeah, or they had attachments and psychic attacks. Like they were the absolute telltale signs of psychic, yes, attacks, what they were experiencing. Right. But because like we don't know what to do with that or how to interpret it, well, then you're sick and you, right, should numb down your mind or something. And maybe she just needed to do maybe a clearing or protect her energy, and it would just go away from your, right, life. Yeah. And it's tragic that was actually the field that I was in. Is I was a person that helped people with these mental disabilities and emotional difficulties and stuff. And it's weird to look back and think about how many of the people that were in there were our people, and it's kind of sad because it feels like we were disempowering them by numbing their ability just enough to defend themselves against these psychic attacks, Yeah, because if you're numbed down, you can't even do anything. Like you're even more open to those attacks and those stuff because you're not aware and present in yourself. Right. That's kind of also what causes it. Like if you like detach very much from yourself or you let go of yourself, or I don't know how to say it. Like also if you're doing drugs or you're an alcoholic, and like if you're tuning out of reality and you're going into this dazed, detached state of mind, and you're most open to that stuff because like you're not relinquishing or you're letting go of control over your own life, basically. Right. And if you're in a very bad place in your life or in a very dark place, then you're even more susceptible to those stuff. Yeah. Because you're like attracting those energies into yourself. Right. And then adding on top of that, where even if these facilities have been updated and remodeled, a lot of them are still on the same land, the same space on this planet where there were these psychology hospitals that they just would torture these people in the older days, and so
there's a lot of energy left in the walls, all those concrete metallic walls that are holding all this stuff. And then you put, anyway, it's just, the reason I'm talking about this is I've been getting messages about that the past little bit, about the liberation of our people. And I keep seeing these hospitals, and it's like the people will be liberated. And it's like, and then to find out that they've changed the diagnosis for schizophrenia recently is awesome, and then, everything needs to be a series of small steps or it won't last, right? Everything has to happen slowly. It's like when you fill a pool, you don't want all of the water to fall from the sky and land in the pool. The pool will fall apart on each side. But if you let the water trickle in through a hose or some small vessel, it will be able to contain that space and maintain the water in that world, and so that's what's happening. We're getting it coming in slowly. And not only that, those who are in this vessel, this pool, can get used to and accustomed to the fact that they're in a place where there's water now, and I don't know how much, that's the visual I'm getting right now. I don't know if that makes much sense, but that's what's happening. It's to make it so it can stick, because if it happens too abruptly, it won't do anything but cause alarm.
Yeah, and also it will do more harm than good. Like also I think we talked about like implant removals and attachment removals. Like think of it like something is attached to, like with tendrils, to every part of your nervous system and your body. And if you were to like grab that thing and like rip it out of your system, then you would do more damage than good, basically, by removing it.
Right.
Okay, so Donna has asked a question about what is karmic clearing and ancestral healing. Does anyone know about any alternatives, energy therapy, or something for substance abuse? So karmic clearing and ancestral healing. Do you want to address that?
Yeah. So like with karmic healing, we're being presented all the time with situations in order to make that be a thing we can clear out. And it's simply it's simply that we are used to or being made to be accustomed to ignoring those things. And so as they come, allow them to be, and to, we feel it innately. There's that the spiritual like message that pops up in those moments, and to just address it as it comes is the best thing that I can say for that, and as we're doing this healing on ourselves too, and like that is the biggest number one top thing right now, is the ability to forgive oneself in order to open that space up to allow the love to come in. And once you're allowing the love to come in, then the healing and the baggage can be let go. All of this karmic anchoring is kind of how I see it, like it's been keeping everything here. And that's why we're starting to have all these past life experiences. Some of them may not even be our own. It's the ancestral stuff, and it's the same kind of, that kind of goes in hand. And like how it's coming up for us to, not for us to own it and possess it and be like, hey, how does this apply to my life, and where does this fit? It's simply to say, you existed, and I acknowledge you, and without judgment though, because I'm not going to hold on to it, and then let it go, release it. And that's all we need to do. It's just, we're a conduit. We're letting it come in and out, and like, and removing it from being stuck into these like little pockets of nasty.
Yeah, and also like what is happening right now, the energies that are washing through our world, like also are encouraging this type of stuff of bringing the old things up and like letting them go.
Yeah.
And I also I also shared the messages that what is happening right now like accelerates this process. So you don't have to work lifetimes on just clearing one or two stuff. Like you can very easily let go of a lot of things together. And I also did it for clients' works, I think, like ancestral healing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was working on one thing at a time. So she was kind of tackling the whole problem, like, okay, like let's bring something up right now, like see what it is and heal that. And like the message that came through for her, like you don't have to like bring up just one thing and like be very clear on what that is. Just
Yeah.
like do an intent to accumulate a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that is like very relevant right now. Like you don't have to be super clear on all those experiences. Just
Right.
like see all that energy and like feel it, like bring it up, bring it together, and like transform that all together and like let it go. And you're like doing this huge processing all at once. You don't have to like pick each blade of grass separate from the lawn.
Right. And you don't have to fully understand it either. That was my mistake in the beginning, was
Yeah,
I felt
me
like I had to
too.
like know every corner or whatever.
Yeah. And
It
most of
just
the time you
fits.
wouldn't even understand what it is because like
Right.
stuff comes through that we don't have any reference to. Like
Right.
we maybe from times or cultures that we have like no clue about. And they come through and yeah, like you wouldn't understand it. But like we have this fascination with the from the ego mind that okay, like I have to put everything in a box and label everything and
Right.
logically integrate it this and this and that so I can understand it intellectually.
Right.
And like many stuff don't work like that, especially like in the spiritual realms, because it's kind of beyond the understanding of the ego mind. You just kind of have to go with it, like whatever
Yeah.
comes up.
Right. Exactly. And like you said, the way I see, the way I do it visually and kind of in my experience now is I've been doing this for a little while, um, with intention, and is that now it looks like it's like pop, 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 like these different, and I'm kind of like up, like almost like I'm like a conductor, when it's music or whatever, and you're like bringing it up, and it's like, and every one of them may be a microsecond before the other one, just enough of us of a stagger so you can acknowledge each thing, and sometimes I am so drained that like doing one at a one is too much, and that's right then not for me to do. What I'm trying to say, I think, is, you know there's not a standard, and it will occur in the way that it's supposed to if you allow it to, and just to remember to be gentle with yourself. Everybody's doing these things, we're all doing it together as a team. It's not all on your shoulders, and so, and I think that segues also into that question about the drug stuff. Like, I think, I don't know, this is only an opinion of just watching different things, but the majority of the people that I've known that had addiction issues have been people in this awakening experience. A lot of us found our need to dull the experience, trying to find a way to fit in and to mask them, particularly like you were saying before, when it comes to, yeah, like psychic attacks and stuff, and not having anywhere to anyone to ask how to solve these problems and what it is, and as we start to go into this spiritual experience that we're in, and allow ourselves to meditate and take care of ourselves, often I've seen these addictions just kind of resolve themselves. Like there's no longer a need for it, because the adequate substitute is the spirituality, the spiritual way of life. And the more we do it, the more we realize, like we've been saying for a while, it's kind of fun. But instead of being a person having a spiritual experience, we're actually a spirit having a human experience, and just to let yourself be along for the ride and don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah, also Lisa shared something. I noticed that people with substance abuse had attachments in their auric field
Right.
that kept that person addicted. I sent a ton of Reiki, which helped the person to stop drinking, and didn't even know why. Okay, I may be using the wrong words, but I think it's interesting that alcohol was called spirits
Yeah.
back in the days. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
can get attachments from that stuff, like just like what we were talking about, that you're like opening yourself up when you're like losing control over yourself. And yeah, like you just as with smoking or with any type of bad habit, you attract beings that kind of explore similar stuff, and they're drawn to you. And like most of the time I've seen it through like regression, that they were like going into different habits. And I think it was, I'm not sure, she has a YouTube channel. She's also a QHHT practitioner, and she had like an addiction or some kind of pain in their body, and they were like exploring it, like, okay, like what is that, like where is it coming from, like what is causing it. And many times it was like a being was, or maybe like a disembodied person was like attracted to that, and even that being or person didn't even understand like what they were doing, or they were like causing problems for that living person here on planet Earth. All that they perceived from it, like, okay, like they passed and they were like in a darkness, and this was the only light, and they were like drawn to that light, which was the addiction of that person or the problem of that person. And they stick around it because that's what they're drawn to or what they understand. And they like amplify those experiences for that person too.
Right. Yeah. The way way I see it visually is, you know how we all have aura, we all have that energy space around us. And like, it starts out, I think, with like a body pain, you know, in a body. So your aura pulls in. If you have shoulder pain, I'm using that as an example, and there's like a little bit of a dip, and that's like a place that can be attached to. And but that doesn't tend to happen unless you're in disharmony, you know. And so when you see someone who is engaged in, like, particularly if you go to, like, I sometimes will drive by the bar and not, you see the people outside, and like their auric field is like diminished. It's like they're all the way around. And so instead of having one area where there's a pain that your energy is like healing that area, it's like it pulls the energy in all the way around, when it's normally like pretty wide around a person. And it just makes your shield, that is your aura, more easy to penetrate, I suppose.
Yeah, like also that's when like influences can come through more easily.
Right.
Hear voices and stuff like that. Like I think I'm not sure like where I read it regarding that spirit stuff, like it was called spirit.
Yeah.
And in some cultures, I'm not sure, it was called something of the devil or something. Like that people got possessed, like who were drunk and stuff like that.
Interesting.
It's very freaky. Yeah. It was some kind of stuff from the Middle Ages, if I remember correctly.
Wow. It's fun to see how stuff like the other one that this is a whole different story, but how until like the 50s, I can't remember the word, that, you know, the word lunatic came from people who are under the experience of a full moon and tend to behave in a different way, you know. And like lunar sickness, I think that was illegal. In the court of law, you could use that as a legal defense, and it's like temporary insanity back until about the 50s, you know. And what's fascinating about that, and I don't mean to get too far off track, I apologize, I just thought this is really cool. Then something happened where the moon got taken over by the light, and so now the energies that are coming through from the moon are actually beneficial, whereas before it was not so beneficial to us. And though still, I mean, as a social worker, and also talking to people who work in like the ambulances that pick up people who are hurt and stuff, you can always expect a crazy night when it's a full moon. When it's a full moon, you're going to work harder. There's going to be more people having issues. It's still a thing, you know. If you don't work in those fields, you will notice there are more sirens from police and ambulance vehicles on a full moon night than any other night of the week. It's crazy.
Yeah, like our body is made out of water, and I guess it influences it in some extent. Right. Yeah, like, but what is happening? Like, I haven't really noticed like negative effects of it, but like it brings up and stuff in people, or how does it work in your opinion?
Well, I think that because it's been taken over by the light, and it's a different broadcast that we're getting, it's a positive thing. But at the same time, my opinion, the way it feels to me anyway, not really opinion, but the way it feels is that it's bringing up the things that we need to address in ourselves. It's assisting us to bring out the baggage. And when it's happening in a way where a person maybe, for one, aren't prepared to do that, and two, don't anticipate anything occurring, I think that it can become traumatic in a way, and that person like freaks out, you know. And like, for instance, someone who typically an experience, if someone's sad and don't want to say that they're sad because they're whatever, they don't want to appear vulnerable, then very quickly they will like lash out in anger and even aggression against somebody when they're just sad, you know. And like, and so when people are repressing these things, it comes out sideways basically, you know. And so if more people were able to be within themselves and grounded enough to understand that it's a healing process, and to like accept it for what it is and utilize it to assist them, I don't think that it would be such a problem.
Yeah, and I also kind of noticed, especially in our parents' generation, like if you're struggling with something, then basically for us, the whole mechanism how to cope with it is like to ignore it as best as you can.
Right. Pretend it away.
Yeah, pretend that it's not a problem or it doesn't even exist. And yeah, I just see like it keeps coming up and up and up and over and over again. And like you can't, I don't like, I guess they're more stuck in their ways, but you can't really do much with them. And many of them feel like they're like stuck in this train track and like they're just going down on that road or something similar.
Right. Yeah. And they feel like they're victims of circumstance, that they don't have,
Yeah.
they've been convinced so thoroughly that they're disempowered and that they're powerless, that when you succumb to that belief, then that's what you become. Like if you believe it, it is so. Whatever it is.
Yeah, like also my dad is like the prime example for that.
Yeah.
Like this type of reactive person that, okay, like whatever happens, it's always bad.
Right.
Or he only sees the bad or the negative side of everything. And of course, like it developed a few physical problems for him too. And even that, he tackles the whole situation as like, regardless of what treatment or medication he receives, it won't work because nothing works. And he just keeps getting worse and worse, which is very bad, but can't really do much about that, sadly.
And then he doesn't believe it's going to work. So then it doesn't.
Yeah, it won't work. Like you can receive, I don't know, like what miracle medicine if you said, oh, this is rubbish.
Right.
It's not going to do anything. And I've also seen like people having very difficult problems, and there is this miracle medicine for it, which is like very simple. You just actually, but it's not a chemical or something that you're used to, but it's very effective. And they like flat out reject it. Like, I don't believe in those things. But you just have to drink a few sips of tea. It would be good.
Yeah. I mean, if you speak against something, it's just as powerful as speaking for something, you know. Like if you say, you know, I am abundant, and you become abundant. If you say the opposite, which I'm not going to say, it becomes true also, you know. And like, and it's just because we are the creators. Again, the Vesica Pisces, we're the eye, the seed. We are looking through a projection of an illusion that we are participating in every moment that we're in. And that is true for every part of this element. We're an avatar. We're not the experience that we think we're in is very much different than which we are in. If I said that right. But
so we're in a holographic reality.
Basically.
Yeah, like we're experiencing a video game.
Yeah.
Or something similar.
And then, but there's an organic element to this form that we're operating and that we're experiencing through and seeing through. And so there's things that need to be done in order to, if you wish to maintain the health of this organic form that you're participating with, you know. And it all starts with allowing it to be, and then agreeing to have it be, you know, like you were saying, you know, declare its truth, declare its possibility that it will heal you, and it will.
Yeah, awesome. I also wanted to say something in the closing, but I kind of forgot about.
Sorry.
I started to read Kate's comment that I tried to bring up aliens with my mom. Told her about NASA's statements released, and she said the same. I don't believe in that stuff. I know that you believe in fairies and voodoo. Yeah, yeah, like I think also Nepti, she's not here right now. If you're watching this, a lot of love to you. I think she said last year also her family is very, I don't like, I think they were religious and they were all sick with the flu, and she used some incense and like essential oils to clear the air. And she's family said that it's witchcraft using essential oils.
Right. I had the same problem here. I was smudging and my neighbor reported me to the landlord for witchcraft. Yeah, that was a while ago. I think I remember telling you that.
Yeah, I think it was like more than a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, like, but also like progressing out of that, hopefully soon, kind of.
What's fascinating is that neighbor that reported me for that's now asking me to help her figure out her dreams. Like she's starting to like come ask the crazy lady stuff.
She's smoking weeds. She knows this stuff.
It's so funny. Yeah, and and just something I would like to point out again too is that there is very important, useful tools out there that can help in the beginning process of this, like utilizing another person who is a healer, connecting with those med beds, the light beds. These other tools are not unuseful. It's simply that they assist us into understanding and our belief that that is effective, because it's like your car breaks down in a town that you've never been, and you go to a auto place to fix your car with the hope that they'll fix it. And when they do, the next time you're in that town, if your car breaks down, you'll go there with the belief that they will fix it. And so it's the same concept. Once you see that it will work through the use of someone else, you are more and more empowered. And that's all I'm saying. Please utilize any of the things that you have found to be useful and to continue on this beautiful journey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we also, if you look back at your life and all the weird experiences that you had, the same thing happened, like time and time again. Small stuff happened that like proves to you that you're able to do things. Also healing or all types of manifestational stuff. And like when the real stuff or like something big happens and you're like prepared because you already tested out, okay, like I can do this, like this works, and I'm able to do it.
Right. And something else, and I'm just going to say this, Guardian is an awesome healer. I used Guardian a couple of times for healing, and I, sometimes you're just so over encumbered by what's interfering with you with these psychic attacks and these different whatever it is, and having someone else help you really is beneficial. And Guardian was a really good healer. So if anyone's interested, he didn't ask me to say that.
Yeah, like it's weird stuff with the healing, because like I never seen myself as a healer. It came up, I think like 2 years ago. Fenya was asking for a healing session, and my guys were like, okay, like do it, and like do the healing. I was like, I never did healing on anyone. I did healing on myself. Like I experimented on myself a lot for almost like 8 years before that. So I kind of had my own way of doing stuff, like how to regenerate and doing those stuff. But I never seen myself as a healer.
Right.
And, like I always perceived myself as being more like a warrior or that type of defender spirit or something similar. But yeah, like also during battle, you have to learn how to regenerate and heal yourself in between battles.
So you were well balanced. There's nothing, it's beautiful. And I am very glad that I had done those healings with you, that they were the transformation that occurred from it. It's still happening actually. And it was a beautiful experience. I'm really glad that I did it.
No, thank you. It was very awesome too. Yeah, like the dream catcher was moving above you.
Yeah, that was crazy to hear about later on. As the healing was happening, I was twitching and like, and the dream catcher above my head, there weren't any windows or fans on or any way that there should be a draft. And yeah, it just started shaking above my head, huh?
Yeah, like
So
the
cool.
feathers started to move like this. That was
That's
weird.
awesome.
Okay, so MM asked the question just in closing. If I have never, no, let me rephrase this. If I have never in my 43 years any experience to let me know I am not alone or can see things like energies, or I'm not sure what it is, ASC symptoms. Is that ascension
Ascension.
symptoms?
Mhm.
Ascension symptoms. Yet I do believe in everything out there. What then? So if you haven't had any like very direct and profound experiences, then yeah, like how do you? But yeah, like if you do believe in it, then I think it's okay. Like you don't have to have those like grandiose, like earth-shaking experiences to believe in it. But I think like for most of us, like that's kind of how we get used to it, or
Yeah.
just open ourselves up to that possibility. At least that's how it was for me. Like I was like denying all these stuff that were happening to me, and it became like crazier and crazier
Right.
until I accepted the fact like, okay, like this is actually happening, like this is real.
Because before you accepted it, it was building up. It didn't have a way to come out. And so just building and building and building.
Yeah, like it was pushing me to realize and accept the fact that okay, like this is actually happening and this is real. But yeah, for some people that's very smooth transition, and for many people I think like they don't even are afraid to let go of how they think reality works. Like that's
Right.
what I see with many people. But usually, like I think we who are the trailblazers, like people who awakened sooner, we programmed ourselves before coming in. So for us, the shift is not that dramatic.
Right.
So we like easily can like do like 180 flip. Okay, like this is completely normal
Right.
to have ET experiences and
Right.
stuff like that.
And most of the things that we go through, we also have, it's my experience anyway, learned find excuses for, or to explain away for other reasons. Like a lot of the ascension symptoms, for the longest time, I've had a lot of ascension symptoms for years. I just didn't know what they were. And every time I'd complain to a doctor, they would say that, what's the word, hypochondriac. They call me a hypochondriac. Like someone who's always thinking that they're sick and there's something wrong.
Oh
And
yeah.
I wasn't looking for medicine or surgery or anything. I just wanted to know I wasn't dying, because it was like, what's going on, and like, but they didn't, you're perfectly healthy. And but before that, like if you type in those symptoms into like, one of the common Google or search engine type things that tell you about medicine stuff, it'll say you're dying. You're not, but like it'll have an answer. It'll say, this is what's wrong with you. And that's not always the case. And however, it's easy to put those symptoms in that box, is what I'm saying. And so for instance, the ear ringing, that people always say it's tinnitus, it means you're losing your hearing. However, my hearing tests are showing that my ability to hear is increasing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to perceive more sound than I was a few years ago, and so anyway, so on and so forth. But also a lot of these other experiences we've learned to explain away for other reasons. And so perhaps MM, I think is what you said her name was,
Yeah.
maybe you are experiencing some of these things and just not realizing it, and but the most important point that I should make is that nothing comes through to us in a way that will alarm you.
Yeah,
It's
or
not meant
intrude
to.
upon your free will, or I wouldn't say like comfort zone, but the
Right.
whole point of those experiences is like not to scare you away
Right.
from that path. Yeah.
So to make you feel unsafe would be um, counterproductive. It would take away from the beauty of the evolution that you're going through. And so a lot of us are getting these messages and these experiences in a much more subtle way. So it's almost unrecognizable. It's like the same thing where you haven't seen somebody for a handful of years and you run into them again, and and that child is now a teenager, and it's obvious to you that that person has changed a lot. However, that person looking in the mirror every single day have not seen their changes occurring. That same kind of thing. It's very gradual sometimes.
Yeah, like that's because our psyche or our ego mind wouldn't be able to cope with all that huge drastic change. Like it happens from time to time, and like it can be very traumatic.
Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Like in closing, do you want to share anything? Higher vibrations?
Again, I should do an announcement that we're going to do our Zoom meeting on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 4/4, the portal. And so
it's Monday, it's 4/4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then we're gonna just it's free. And if you're interested, I'll comment on this video, and you can click on my avatar, and it'll bring you to my YouTube channel, which will I'll have a post with the link for that video, that meeting. It's not going to be recorded or aired.
Yeah, it's super private.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, High Vibrations, for being here and sharing your wisdom. And yeah, like let's talk next week too, if we can. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, so have an awesome day, everyone there in the US. And now I'm going to go to bed here in Europe.